Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
Good morning. It is 8:07. News Talk 105.9 WMAL. We are here to help you make sense of the news. It is Patrice Onwuka on this Friday before Labor Day, long Labor Day weekend, and I'm here to help take you into the weekend with Hans von Spakovsky from the Heritage Foundation. Good morning, Hans.
Good morning, and I can't believe we're in our last hour of the show.
I'm telling you, time flies when you're having fun with friends. All right, at 8:30, we've got Stewart Whitson coming up. He's running for a special election to represent Virginia's 11th congressional district. There's going to be an election on September 9th. And if you didn't hear today's entire show, it is okay. We have got you covered. Download our podcast, WMAL's podcast, O'Connor and Company, wherever podcasts are found. You'll hear everything that we covered, including a great interview with Governor Youngkin earlier this morning, and we covered quite a lot on the Minnesota shooting that happened earlier this week. But right now, we're staying in Virginia. We're going to get to a really interesting story that's popping off here. Garrett Exner, he is a board member of Veterans on Duty, executive director of the Public Interest Fellowship, and he was appointed by Governor Youngkin to the Virginia Military Institute Board of Visitors. However, the Democrats in the Virginia Senate have blocked his confirmation or his appointment in a vote. I believe it was just yesterday. Garrett, it's so good to have you. Welcome to the program.
Thank you guys so much for having me on.
Yeah.
Terrific. Well, we'd love for you just to kind of break down the situation with these appointments. It wasn't just you, it was several others. And tell us what's going on and really what's the backstory here, because it sounds like there could be some retribution for, just kind of cleaning house in a lot of these Virginia universities when it comes to DEI.
That's exactly what's going on. So basically yesterday, 8 Senate Democrats continued their campaign to harm higher ed in Virginia. They voted to remove Virginians who, like myself, care about improving our educational system, and they did so for purely partisan politics. They're doing it as a retaliation against President Trump in his efforts to rip DEI out of universities to get us back to merit. So they're going to retaliate, and they're going to try to clean house at a lot of these universities and leave board seats open in the hopes that things will go their way later this year, and they'll be able to fill the universities and take them right back to where they were.
Well, yeah, but Garrett, you said it's partisanship, but it's really also ideology, because they've been disapproving, I think, almost every single one of Youngkin's appointments.
Absolutely.
And I know a number of the people that Youngkin appointed, and all of them are folks who want to basically stop the DEI and woke propaganda that has infected Virginia's state colleges, and Democrats want that to continue.
Absolutely. It is ideological for them. They are focused on getting rid of merit and rigor in schools. And many of us, have this shared understanding that rigor in your academic curriculum produces high quality outcomes. So we want high standards at our universities. We do not want to go back to a time where we're picking people based on the color of their skins or some other immutable characteristic of their person. We want to go for the best in Virginia and have the best schools so that we can produce the best outcome for our students. And ideologically, right now, it looks like the Democrats are very much opposed to that.
It's a shame that they're opposed to equal opportunity, equal treatment under the law, really equality. And I'm speaking as a Black woman here. It's a shame. Talk about, though, the VMI superintendent who has removed Major General Cedric Wins, who, seemed to have been peddling a lot of this woke ideology. And he was removed. It was the Board of Visitors voted not to renew his contract. Is this also part of the story, the retaliation by the left?
So that happened before my time on the Board of Visitors. at VMI. I will say I have a ton of respect for General Wins. I think he had a great career. I think he cares deeply about VMI. But I think when I talk to alumni of the VMI community, a lot of what they tell me is that the school is moving away from where it was when they were there. It's moving in a direction that's going to make it easier, that's going to lower the standards, that's going to make it less like VMI and more like any other liberal arts college in America. And I think that's what we saw for about 4 years, was this transition away from the VMI that produced George Patton and George C. Marshall, the VMI that produced our current chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, one of the best military universities in the world, and it was moving in a different direction. So, the board made a decision on that superintendent, and they're trying to take VMI in a different direction now to get it back to what it once was. And I think there's some retribution here to say, you removed the person that we wanted to run this school, and we're going to clean house on this board until we get to have that pick, sometime in the future, which is really unfortunate.
I don't think parents. Look, I'm a Virginia resident. All three of my kids went to Virginia colleges. I don't think the residents of the state realize just how bad the universities have gotten, including University of Virginia, in terms of the DEI, the wokeism, the political correctness there. I have a friend whose daughter decided to go out of state, deeper into the South, because when they toured, for example, the University of Virginia, it was so bad that they were totally turned off by the university.
This is actually happening across the Northeast, across the Acela corridor, where you have students from all of these schools from Virginia north all the way up to Maine, students that are transferring and coming down to go to colleges down in the South because they know they're going to get a better education. If you look at schools like University of Florida with the Hamilton Center, Arizona State University set up a great thing called the Skettle out there, a school for civic engagement and thought leadership. Tennessee has some great schools that they're setting up. But basically, students from the Northeast are leaving to go down south to go to these schools because they want a real education. They do not want to be indoctrinated in kind of a woke ideology. And Virginia really has a decision to make right now. Governor Youngkin has done an excellent job trying to make Virginia the epicenter for great education. And what's in front of us in November is a decision to say, do we want to go back? Do we want to make Virginia more like Maryland, or do we want to make it more like a state that has high-quality higher education?
Well, as a Maryland resident, I can say, please don't become more like Maryland. We're speaking with Garrett Exner here. Garrett, talk to us about the Youngkin administration, specifically Attorney General Mayaris. He has an ongoing lawsuit, about, what's going to happen with this situation. Can you shed some details or some light on these details?
Yeah, absolutely. So typically the General Assembly meets in the beginning of the year, and outside of that, you have what are effectively recess appointments by the governor. So governor appoints people, and until the General Assembly meets back in full session, they don't vote on appointments at any of the Board of Visitors at any of these universities. What they've done, the Privileges and Elections Committee down in Richmond has said that we're going to meet outside of the General Assembly, which they did in June, and they did it again in July, and they just did it this week. And we're just going to vote just 8 Senate Democrats in a 7-minute meeting, and we're going to throw out these appointments, even though they're made in recess. They got a judge in Fairfax County to back that case, and then we're moving forward, and it's going to go in front of the Virginia Supreme Court. Governor Youngkin is very confident in his case, and Attorney General Mayaris is very confident in his case in front of the court that they'll win out. This is unprecedented. This has never happened in Virginia politics before, where the P&E committee has just stood up and said, hey, we're going to reject these recess appointments, and then we'll deal with it later on down the road. So I think things will turn out right, but it's embarrassing for the state of Virginia right now.
Well, Garrett, thank you so much for your time. I mean, this is an important issue, and I think it feeds really well into speaking with the governor and some of our other guests today about the stakes in Virginia to push back against the legislature if the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the AG flip hands and get into leftist hands. Things will go even worse than that. Appreciate your time, Garrett. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. It is 8:15.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
All All right, Hans, you actually drew this story to our attention this morning. Governor Newsom deploys state police to major cities after Trump threatens to send more troops to California. You want to walk us through what's going on here?
You know, what is it? Plagiarism is the best form of flattery. Remember, Newsom was saying, we don't need federal troops here. We don't have any crime problems. And now suddenly he acknowledges the horrible crime problems in places like, Oakland. Oakland outside of San Francisco is one of the, for example, car theft capitals of America. And so what has Newsom done? He said, well, we're forming special teams of state and local police to go into these high crime areas. We all know this wouldn't have happened. This would not have happened if Trump wasn't showing the kind of success he's been showing, for example, in the District of Columbia with what he's been doing.
Absolutely. So the California Highway Patrol troopers will target crimes like auto theft and drug dealing in L.A., San Diego, inland regions, and in San Francisco Bay. This is according to reporting here. Let's see, this is, I believe, the Washington Post, or maybe it's another news outlet. Sorry, in Politico. It's funny. You see Newsom copying President Trump's style on X, where he's writing run-on sentences in all caps with big exclamation marks ending with "Thank you for your attention to this matter." So he's copying President Trump's social media presence. He's copying his language sometimes, and now he's copying his policies. I'm actually not mad at it. If this is what it takes for the Governor Newsoms, for the J.B. Pritzkers, for my governor here, Governor Wes Moore, to actually do what they're supposed to do, which is to ensure public safety. If they need to rip those ideas off from President Trump, I think that's a great reason to copycat.
Well, you're right. And I was wondering. I didn't get a chance to ask our earlier guest, Mary Catherine Hamlis, but I wonder, Patrice, is Muriel Bowser, the mayor of D.C., is she going to get exiled from and thrown out of the Democratic Party? Because, this week she held a press conference in which she kind of admitted that what Donald Trump had done was a good thing because it had brought crime down in the District of Columbia.
Yeah, I listened to what she said. And, she's threading that needle. She's saying, crime is down. She gives these eye-popping statistics of just how quickly crime has plummeted. I think Chuck Deese was on yesterday saying, this was a great success, this 20 days of surge in D.C. of law enforcement. And so she's threading this needle. She's still saying, wait a minute, but ICE, that's too much. We don't want to instill fear in the hearts of D.C. residents over immigration, but the police stuff is actually good. Well, maybe this is a lesson learned to all the Democrats who have spent the past, not even 4, 8, 10, 12 years denigrating police.
That's right.
Calling them, the new era of slave masters, comparing police and locking criminals up to locking up slaves in this country. Maybe they've learned that lesson, that kind of over-the-top rhetoric is totally irresponsible and has devastating impacts for public safety for the people they represent. Maybe.
Well, you think so, but they keep doing and saying such stupid things that it's no wonder the polling shows that they have the lowest support in the history of polling.
I thought that belonged to Congress, but you know what? Yeah, it is what it is. And from what I hear, we may have next summer 2 mini conventions. I think the Democrats are going to try and wheel out some of these national leaders to try to energize Democratic voters. But honestly, Hans, the fact that President Trump is above water on crime right now, 54%, and I think it was a AP poll maybe yesterday, one of those big national polls, close to 50% on immigration, close to 50% approval on the economy. All of the top issues that he was elected on, he is at 50% or close to at or above on these issues, and we're a year plus away from the midterms. I unless we have another pandemic, and God help me, please let that not happen, I actually think it's going to be better for President Trump and conservatives than probably historically it would be.
No, I think you're right. And you know what is the greatest thing about this? Because we hardly ever see this. He's actually adhering to and carrying out all the promises he made during the campaign.
A politician not lying, but actually delivering on a promise? Oh, my goodness. All right. All right, it is 8:22 from our lips to God's ears. Okay, coming up, Stewart Whitson. He's running in a special election to represent Virginia's 11th congressional district on September 9th. He's going to give us the update on his race and, like we've been talking about all morning, the stakes in Virginia. Stay with us. It's O'Connor and Company at 8:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
Oh, my goodness. It is 8:37 News Talk 105.9 WMAL. We are making sense of the news. We've been making sense of it all morning for you. It's Patrice Onwuka. I'm here every Friday. Larry O'Connor is vacationing, and so I'm here in for Larry and joined by Hans von Spakovsky. Good morning, Hans.
Good morning, Patrice. Been a great 4 hours so far.
Well, you know what? As this Janet Jackson song is saying, I just want to get away. But we've got 30 more minutes of airtime, and we've got a great guest with us this morning, Stewart Whitson. He is running in Virginia's 11th congressional district for the U.S. seat. The special election is going to be September 9th. Stewart, good morning. How is the race going?
Hey, good morning, Patrice and Hans. Great to be on with you both. It is going great. So I think people know for the first time in 16 long years, we actually have a choice in our district, and the choices couldn't be more different. And so people are really excited about that. We're working really hard. And like you said, election September 9th, that's less than 2 weeks from now. So we're excited.
All right, so early voting is happening right now. The election is going to be September 9th. You are running against the Democratic nominee for the Fairfax Supervisor, James Waukesha. Tell us about Mr. Waukesha, why you are a better pick to represent the 11th District in Congress.
Well, really, in a single word, it comes down to service. And so I'm a proud husband of 20 years, father to 5 school-age children, a U.S. Army combat veteran, and a former federal law enforcement officer. I spent my entire career serving our country. Waukesha spent his entire career serving Conley. And so what we need in our district is someone who's going to fight for our families and fight to restore common sense. And that's what I've spent my career doing, and that's what I want to continue to do if the voters elect me.
I know the election's September 9th, but, Virginia, I think now has the longest early voting period in the entire country. So voting's actually been going on for at least a month already?
That's right. And so today's a big day too, because now there's going to be 12 early voting sites opening up.
Wow.
So far there's only been 3. Now there's going to be 12. And I'm actually going to be at 5 of those sites today, bouncing around. And here's a big deal. It's also going to be open on Saturday. And so up to this point, early voting has kind of been during working hours when I think a lot of our voters are actually at work. Mm-hmm. And so it's exciting because now Saturday is going to open up, and we really need Republican voters to get out and vote. Because of the dynamics of this special election, this is a race we can win if Republicans show up and vote. And so we're really trying to push people to the polls.
Stewart, one of the big issues this election cycle in Virginia, just like it was several years ago, is about parents, parental consent. And back then it was about what children were learning in schools. Now it's really about parents knowing what what's happening with in these schools with these bureaucrats, and when it comes to women and girls sports, girls locker rooms, girls spaces. Talk to us about the Fairfax County, its school board, and what they're trying to do. Frankly, thumbing their nose against the federal officials who are just trying to say there needs to be separate facilities, and if you are a boy, you are going to the boys' facilities and the boys' teams, and if you're a girl, you're going to the girls' facilities and the girls' teams.
Yeah, that's right. And so I mentioned, my wife and I, married 20 years, have 5 school-aged kids. They all go to school in Fairfax County. 2 of them are in the Fairfax County public school system. And so all these issues really strike home to us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy that we're even having to talk about this. Again, it's not only having boys participate in their sports, it's having them use their locker rooms and their bathrooms. And so what's crazy is my opponent has come out and he said that's a civil right, that if there's a boy or even a man that identifies as a girl, they should be allowed in their locker rooms. And we saw what happened with Richard Cox. You know, your listeners should Google it if they're not. So COX, a convicted sex offender who identifies as a woman, used this county policy to get access to several female locker rooms across the district. And he exposed himself not just to women, but to little girls. People complained. My opponent did nothing. And so this is what we're up against. We need to restore common sense to government and protect our kids. And it's not even just their safety, it's their dignity, their innocence. And so we have to fight for that.
Stewart, Virginia is one of the handful of states that has off-year elections. This is a special election. And there have been times in the past where folks in Virginia have complained that they have not gotten the support from the RNC that they thought we should get. So I hate to put you on the spot, but have you gotten the kind of help and support from the RNC that you wanted to get?
No, to be honest, I've received zero support from the RNC.
Wow.
And the truth is, this is the bellwether election for the country. So so the midterms are coming up. We obviously have a big election coming up in November as well. But this is the first election, and it's election we not only can we win, we're gonna win it. And so we need to get national folks need to get on board. But here's the good news: our local folks are energized and supporting in ways we've never seen. And so we're in this fight, and things are looking good. Things are looking positive. So we have a path to victory. We just need Republicans to show up and vote.
We're speaking with Stewart Whitson. He's running in a special election on September 9th to represent Virginia's 11th congressional district. You know, Stewart, we've had a number of Virginia legislators on, including the governor of Virginia, but also some others running for office. Talk to us about just the stakes here. When we look at what's important, both, not just for the state, the governor's agenda, but also for representing, Virginia in Congress, because listen, there's a slim majority that conservatives have and a very small, narrow window of time to get a lot of things done before the midterms, if perchance things don't go too well for conservatives in 2026. So talk about the stakes there.
So you're spot on. So in the last 90 years, Republicans have had a trifecta, only 9 of those 90 years. And right now we have the slimmest majority we've had in the last century. And so electing a conservative like myself to Congress, not only does that add a Republican seat, it takes away a Democrat seat. So it's a huge impact. Again, we'll have so the one big beautiful bill was done through a process called reconciliation. We'll have a chance to do at least one more of those before the midterm. And so electing me to Congress, this is great for Virginia, but it's great for the country. So if you're a conservative across the country, you want another conservative like me who's fought in the trenches. So I mentioned my background. I also spent 4.5 years at a conservative think tank fighting to advance conservative policy. And so if people go on my website, whitsonforcongress.com, they can see my background, but they'll know I'm a proven conservative, America first, unapologetically, and I'm someone that knows how to get things done on day one. So this is big, not just for Virginia, but for the country.
Terrific. Stewart, we've got to leave it right there, but thank you so much. Folks can go to whitsonforcongress.com and follow you on X at Stu_Whitson. Thanks so much for your time this morning.
Thanks so much. Great to be on with you guys.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
All right, Hans, we've got an update to I actually think it's a hilarious story that we covered over the past couple of weeks. So we all know the D.C. man who flung a Subway sandwich at a federal agent. Mr. Sean Dunn, he is now a former federal government employee. He got upset about, the President Trump's crackdown on crime. He got in the face of some federal agents and threw a sandwich at at them, and then started to run away, in his, as Larry would describe him, in his little tight, short, vineyard vines shorts and polo, and, this kind of, typical government bureaucrat worker who just feels anything that President Trump does is wrong, has probably worked in his job to undermine the Trump administration. So he's now out of a job, and he was in some hot water because he was facing a felony charge. However, this week we saw that felony charge was downgraded. It was really dropped. He wasn't. The grand jury decided not to indict him on a felony charge, and so his charges have now been downgraded to a misdemeanor, a lesser simple assault offense.
Well, we should mention he's not just a federal bureaucrat. He worked at the U.S. Department of Justice. Right. Anytime anybody is critical of folks being fired and terminated, and folks tell you just how, all these claims about weaponization of the Justice Department are untrue, think about this guy, this Justice Department lawyer who was engaged in this kind of reprehensible behavior.
What I'm thinking about, even though this is a lesser charge, and he could still face up to a year in jail. I mean, I wouldn't mind that. I think about his security clearance. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's gone at this point, nor is he ever going to be able to get another security clearance, having this kind of record, having this misdemeanor even on his record. So if that's the sweet justice here, and he gets to serve some time, I mean, I think that's a sandwich served well warm. All right, it is 8:52.